it's with great pleasure that I would like to spend the next few minutes talking about the journal that I recently joined at the beginning of the year in January as a joint editor-in-chief together with two of my colleagues and friends. Some of you may be aware that for the last 12 years have been involved with various journals in the field of entrepreneurship. These include Entrepreneurship and Regional Development, which is a 3-star ABS journal. I've also been involved with International Journal of Entrepreneurial Behavior Research and have led a couple of special issues and recently sort of completing a few editorials that are forthcoming at the end of the year. And I've also been involved with the Journal of Business Research. Today, I'd like to focus a little bit on this specific journal. The journal, very interesting, particularly for those of you that are interested in the phenomena of gender in the context of work and organization. So the journal is over 30 years old, and it's the first gender equality journal that specifically looks at gender relations and specifically looks at organization of gender and gendering in organizations. It was set up in 1994 by David Knights and Jill Rubery, and it focuses and really challenges some of the issues related to gendered power relations, identity, inclusion as well as exclusion, and more importantly, kind of more holistically recognizing gender regimes that exist, that penetrate all aspects of our life, our social life, our private life, and particularly our organizational life, and the gendering of organizations. From the perspective of the types of publications that we accept and we work with, and I'll focus a little bit on that later on in this presentation. We accept in this journal theory-driven papers and empirical papers. We want the papers that are submitted to us to go beyond the mere description of the context, but also enabling our scholars, our writers, and our authors to advance the scholarship and understanding of the gendered relations in different contexts, whilst at the same time reflecting upon theory. It's a journal that publishes sophisticated papers that are focused on theoretical, epistemological, as well as methodological content. It's very interesting from the perspective of, for example, autoethnography, other types of ethnographic methods, as well as now with the changes kind of on the editorial board, we also accept work that kind of advances the types of data that goes beyond the mere subjective experiences of gender in the context of organizations, to also see and view things at organizational level and understanding the structural entanglements that are also intersected and interlaced with gender relations in this context. To publish in Gender Work and Organization, the manuscript from the outset, when it gets submitted, it needs to make a strong theoretical contribution. And when we talk about theoretical contribution, it's not, very difficult to really reveal the key aspects of the journal focused on gender as the first word in the title. It means that the theoretical contributions that we expect need to come from gender theory, from gender literature, yet at the same time be very kind of interconnected with the issues related to work and organization. And for the last 10 years, the journal has built its foundation as a critical journal, as a feminist knowledge-producing journal that really appreciates feminist philosophies and praxis, that really illuminates the issues of diversity and intersectionality of gendered experiences, that targets and focuses on issues that are related to decolonization or kind of looking at post-colonial narratives, issues that are related to understanding post-feminist, post-humanist perspectives on feminism, also understanding embodied experiences, affect and organizing, issues related beyond kind of the post-heroic leadership, but really embracing the different perspectives and different understandings of gender that are more indigenous, that come from different places, not necessarily only from the West. Moving on to kind of our mission, and our mission hasn't changed at all. We still continue to focus on producing multidisciplinary research. We wanted the sort of high quality articles that continue to engage in dialogues on gender equality, diversity, inclusion in organizational settings. It's an important kind of sphere pathway of discovery and discussion in scholarship, and we hope that some of you that are attending today's workshop, but also might be inspired to write about things related to gender beyond the mere kind of variable perspective where we only within our data look at men and women, and that is it. That's not necessarily representing a theoretical view of what gender is. Gender is socially constructed, and how it permeates variety of layers in organizations are important. A little bit about the journal, which I think is quite interesting. So we have a number of citation impacts. So we're ranked at ABS 3. We are in Schemaggio Q1, and we also see kind of differences in how kind of COVID affected the journal. We had a drop in our impact factor, but I think this is something that's also quite recognized, considering the people who, or the authors that submit to the journal, they may have had other issues to resolve, and the majority of people that write on gender tend to be, and this is quite interesting, tend to be women, possibly mothers, possibly early career scholars that are also women. There are a few papers that have been produced by male scholars. However, when they do work on this particular articles and submissions, they tend to tackle very interesting issues too, issues of fatherhood, kind of looking at queer studies, contributing to our understanding of how gender roles and our gender paradigms are changing in different parts of the world. The acceptance rate as it stands for the last period, and this is the period that I've been part of the journal, is at 9%. We have and we are dealing with some of the issues of delay in kind of processing papers. We have improved already in 2024, but our publisher could only provide us with the data for 2023. I hope next time we do meet the editors, I'll give you some better dates, but actually the process is relatively straightforward. We publish 6 issues per year, and our target for 2024 is 150 articles. So it's actually quite a lot of papers that get accepted, and that also includes several special issues that are trickling through our system that tend to emerge from engagement in Gender Work and Organization Conference, and kind of the proposals that we receive after the conference then populate the special issues. A little bit on author experience. I think this is very interesting. We publish several types of articles. We publish articles as they are. We also publish book reviews. One of the few journals that publishes book reviews. We also publish a few editorials. And what is interesting is the process that we follow. So all submissions, and we receive on average about 30 to 40 submissions a week. We are a very populous journal, which means that there are a lot of submissions, and as editors-in-chief, we go through these submissions and actually reject quite a lot of submissions without review. Those papers that we do push through into the review process, where we allocate them to our specialist associate editors to manage the rest of the process, we try to take care of those papers, and very few papers get rejected after they've passed on the first stage of kind of desk review. And at the moment, if we look at the kind of countries and regions of submissions, a lot of the submissions that come to the journal and those that get accepted come from Anglo-Saxon or English-speaking places. Very few papers come from places that we don't necessarily, like for example, with the main languages Portuguese, French, Italian, or Spanish. However, we're working on this and actually increasing the capacity in those areas by developing special issues that are produced originally in the native language, so i.e., for example, Spanish or Portuguese, and once the paper gets accepted, they will then get translated into English. So we're working on the authors, and we're changing the model a little bit of what is acceptable for a journal like Gender, Work and Organization. So let me tell you a little bit about our editorial team. There are 3 of us as editors-in-chief. I'm delighted to work with both Bettina Bastian, who used to be the editor-in-chief of the Arab Journal of Management, and also with Brown Winisha Wood, who used to be the editor of International Journal of Gender and Entrepreneurship. And as a team, we come with all types of methodologies. Bettina, who did her PhD on sort of technology and entrepreneurship originally, and Brownwin, who comes to us with a very specific specialization in Islamic marketing, and myself, I did my degree in strategy, but then developed a very strong allegiance to understanding gender relations, and I teach a lot of the kind of gender-related subjects at my institution. I have been for the last 20 several years. So including issues of diversity, etc. We have an interesting team with very specific perspective, of course, on how we see the way forward for the journal. We have recently published an editorial, so if you're interested, please have a look. It's available as free to read to all individuals, and it highlights the kind of the direction of travel for this specific journal, particularly in the context of our tenure that will take place in the next sort of 3 years. We also have worked since our appointment in January on expanding and kind of diversifying our associate editor board. We have been successful to secure 30 absolutely fantastic scholars that are very famous in the field, that are working on various contexts, and they come from various contexts. And I think it's quite interesting to see alongside this other types of boards that we are developing. So, for example, in the next few months, we will see the emergence of the early career researchers board, which will kind of represent the new blood that's going to come into the journal and will work together alongside these wonderful individuals and us to develop their reviewing capacity, as well as sort of their personal kind of academic profile alongside the journal, and hopefully within the parameters of the journal's interest. We have quite a sort of wide variety of associate editors. Some come from UK, from Europe, from Global South, and we're working on expanding and kind of diversifying this even more. And in terms of topic representation, we have kind of addressed key themes specific to the mission that I presented earlier, as well as now with new additions of colleagues that come with a focus on diversity, equality and inclusion, on technology, grand challenges. And therefore, we hope that the topics that you will see also being kind of funneled through the review process are going to be representative of the variety of issues that are affected by gendered relations. The review process is relatively straightforward. People submit their papers to us. They straight away get randomly assigned to the 3 of us as editors-in-chief, and we do the initial cut. One of the key things we look for is really this engagement with gender theory. That's the initial hygiene factor on the basis of which we'll decide on whether the paper is interesting and it actually resonates with the journal reviewers as well as the possible readers. Of course, the topic needs to be novel, interesting, and relevant. The associate editors who then get assigned the papers that pass the desk, they do the second screening. They still have the right to reject the paper at that point, because as subject specialists, they will have much more intimate knowledge of the topic that is being discussed in the paper. They will, if they decide to keep the paper in the review process, will identify reviewers, write letters based on reviews, do their own evaluation, and provide recommendation to the editor-in-chief that is kind of connected with this piece. And at the end, the final decision on the paper's acceptance will still come to one of us, one of the three of us. Why are articles rejected? How can we improve the chances at gender work in organization? One is make sure that the paper that you're submitting really fits the scope of the journal. And we have a lot of different topics that we're relatively inclusive and open. However, what is really important to remember that it's not just a journal about work or organization. It's a journal about gender. And so gender issues have to permeate throughout like a golden thread in the paper. It's also very important to ensure that whilst embedding your argument and framing in specific theory, that you may be theory of inequality of, I don't know, Joan Arca at this point, or you are kind of working on intersectionality with kind of Kimberly Crenshaw's work, or maybe something else. But you need to really theoretically develop this beyond what we already know, or showcase some kind of inconsistencies and tensions that are worthy of the academic discovery and debate to enable us to kind of progress with the subject. We also kind of look at specific methodological issues that might emerge. So, for example, it might be problematic to only we do receive, for example, systematic literature reviews, which are very interesting, and we're not against them. But when the systematic literature review only involves 17 papers that have been read, that clearly is not the full systematic literature review. In the same way, in terms of number of interviews, or when we engage in qualitative study, we really want to see more of the different types of sources and kind of that have been used to generate the insight beyond the mere description of the 3-hour interview or 2-hour interview with an individual. So we really need to find a way to be more holistic and more open, yet at the same time rigorous in the way in which we develop our data sources, how we analyze these data sources, and how the analysis that we produce actually talks back to the theoretical issue that have been the counterstone of the paper. How do we increase the chances? Read the recently published articles in the same area. Get the feel for the language, for the style of writing and ways in which we present methods. How is data analyzed and displayed? Really understand what the journal expectations are. But also informally get some friendly reviews from colleagues who regularly publish in this journal. We have so many, but the journal has been operating for 30 years, and that means that there is a lot of people that understand how this journal works, whether the topic fits, whether the study design fits, and whether the writing style actually is conducive of being of achieving a positive review from the reviewers. There are 2 current special issues that are still ongoing and accepting publications. So one of them, and it's the one that's just recently closed in the summer, but we're still accepting papers for it. It's called Gendered Visible and Invisible Inequalities in the Middle East and North Africa. So have a look at it. If you have something that you'd like to submit to this special issue, please feel free to submit it. And don't forget to write a covering letter in which you can indicate that you have seen me speak about this and encouraging you to submit to the special issue. In addition to this, we have a second special issue that is due, the papers for which are due on 2nd of January 2025, Entrepreneurship Beyond Ideologies, Decolonization of Entrepreneurship for Sustainable Digital Transformation in the Emerging Economies, a Gendered Perspective. That particular special issue came to us from a group of academic scholars that connected in South Africa at our conference 2 years ago, and they've run several professional development workshops. And whilst we know it's going to be popular as a special issue with submissions, we also hope that if there are any of you that are working on these topics, you might be truly interested to submit something and kind of see how the journal will react to your work. I hope that this is sufficient in terms of information about the journal. I really warmly welcome you to submit your best work to our journal. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I am quite interested as well in the special issue, so I need to declare, and I note your indication of mentioning that my participation in this particular event. However, I just wanted to touch a little bit on one of the slides you showed about how do you get accepted, looking at what has been published before and the language and stuff like that. If we are to consider perhaps bringing something new and novel and trying to push the envelope a little bit, how far can we go?
Okay, so just I mean, it's a perfect question, because one of the things I didn't talk about, the different sections that we have in the journal. So whilst we accept traditional academic papers, we also have a section that used to run in the journal called Feminist Frontiers, that used to accept very open, writing differently type papers. And at this point in time, myself and my co-editors-in-chief are in conversations with a new team that will be coming in January to run a new Writing Differently section. We don't have a title for it yet, but this is like a pre-announcement. And writing differently means using different ways of writing to express not necessarily something that is very rigid and based on templates of academic writing, but something that is free, including poesy, including maybe multimedia, and kind of looking at visuals and use of visuals and other types of sources and of data, as well as interpretation. And what you'll already find that actually the journal in the past have accepted a lot of work which was kind of supported by images, supported by videos. So we have really freedom in which to express something that has to, unfortunately, make a very strong theoretical contribution. So bounding things in gender theory, yet at the same time being free, is an interesting but creative struggle that we have to kind of overcome together. What I also would like to say that as a journal, we have an active LinkedIn page and Twitter page. Please connect to us on LinkedIn. You will see a lot of announcements. We have a conference being advertised that will take place at my institution next year in the summer, just before the Academy of Management. And we hope that we'll also be able to facilitate this Writing Differently workshops and introduction with the new editors in the sort of early part of 2025. So please be inspired by the work that we're publishing right now. Some of the papers are truly incredible, and also by the 30 years of work that we've already accumulated from different authors that are standing as our sisters and brothers and founders of this specific domain of writing.
Hi, Prof. Thank you very much for the insightful presentation. I just wanted to confirm one thing. You mentioned that when you're talking about the systematic literature reviews, so you mentioned that if someone has maybe 17 or less articles, that's not good enough.
Well, it's not just not good enough, kind of what we need to think about. I think this is a really, really interesting point. I used it because this happened to me this week. I saw an SLR that was submitted. It had 17 papers. The subject was a really wide subject. Mm-hmm. And I'm convinced there are more than 17 papers that exist, but why include only 17? So discarding kind of quite a lot of really important work is not a good idea. So to me, sometimes it looks like this particular paper should have been reviewed internally, and actually colleagues in the institutions would have told this particular person, this author, that the scope of the paper was too narrow to result in anything valuable. So what we need to see is we need to have the breadth and scope in place for a subject area that would enable us to produce something of interest that also makes relevance to gender.
Okay. Because the reason why I'd asked that is, let's say I'm looking at something that it's a fairly new topic, so a lot hasn't been done about that. So what's the best way to go about it?
I would not do an SLR.
Oh, okay.
So this is not the sort of, I would actually do some exploratory work. I would look at possibly different contexts. I would connect with authors from, maybe that are interested in the same topic and connect from different contexts. So you can bridge kind of and create something that's more comparative, for example, so that you can establish more of the essence of the phenomena before kind of trying to do something that looks like an SLR.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.